Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Real Talks. I'm your host, David Steele, and welcome back, I should say. I did a show a little earlier today just to get a couple of newsworthy items out of the way, which I wasn't even going to do, but was necessary. And so, hello. Basically, this is as everybody knows, within the last 24 or 48 hours. It was a little show that dropped on Disney Plus, Secret Invasion. This is one of those shows that it's really interesting and cool and spyish. And from what I have heard, let's go back a couple things. Number one, it's only 6 episodes. So guys, every single week on Thursday, you guys are going to be getting another Secret Invasion episode. Okay, these are all going to be spoiler casts. I'm not going to hold back. So it even says it in the prologue there. Enter at your own risk. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Come back, watch this. Okay. Number two. So this is a little, I would even call it a mini series, a limited series, if you will, about. It's got a spy aspect to it. Of course, Nick Fury's the spy, the ultimate spy. And so it really worked. So it's going to be going off for the next 6 weeks. So this isn't going to be like an 18 episode thing like Daredevil Reborn or whatever. So we've only got this till maybe August, if that. So, and that's good. I think that's good because the longer you drag things out, the more it can become redundant. So, anyways, so this whole thing, and it's even interconnecting, and I'm going to get into a couple things in a couple of minutes. So, so it dropped the other night, and so I watched it, and it was a good length too. I got to be honest about that. It was a good length. It was about 45 minutes, and with credits and everything else, and that was fine. And there's a couple of different things that I noticed right off the top. So, Kevin says Osaka and Secret Invasion will get nominations. I have no doubt about that. And it's something. So you bring up an interesting point about Emmy nominations. Hulu is eventually going to fold into Disney. Yeah, I have no doubt about that either. So you bring up an interesting point about Emmy nominations. So the same DP, okay, that just did one of the greatest shows of still in this year, okay, in The Last of Us, is actually the DP on the show. So I think that's something to be said right there. So it's going to be good in that respect. He knows what he's doing, and he's done a couple of other shows in the past. So if he did The Last of Us, which blew up, and now he's doing this, look out. A couple of things that I really noticed right off the top. And so I cannot go without saying. So since we're at the beginning of this, let's start from the very beginning. Because there is, as somebody said the other day, there is an elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is the opening. And the opening is something that really a lot of people had a lot of problems with. And it wasn't because of the graphics or anything else, because it was made with artificial intelligence. So anybody who is not familiar with it, okay, artificial intelligence is one of those things that it's definitely been a problem for the last, I would say, couple of years, and especially because right now we're in a writer's strike. And so let me dive into the the article, because this is one of the major sticking points of not only the WGA but moving forward, right? So this came out from the Hollywood Reporter last night, okay, at 8 o'clock in the evening, okay. So the headline reads: Secret Invasion opening uses AI cost quote no artistic job, no artist jobs. Studio says that made it. On Wednesday morning, Disney Plus subscribers were treated to the first episode of Marvel's Studios' Secret Invasion, which includes an opening sequence that highlights the mystery behind the series, shape-shifting aliens that had infiltrated Earth. Soon after the episode aired, a report surfaced noting that the opening had been created by using artificial intelligence, something that has sparked an outcry on social media among users speculating it would cost artists their jobs. Now, Method Studio, which was behind the opening, wants to clarify those reports of how AI was used in the animated opening by its design division. AI is just one tool among the many array of tools artists use. No artist jobs were replaced by incorporating these new tools. Instead, they complemented and assisted our creative teams, read a statement from Method to the THR. Method explained to THR that it used existing and custom tools in creating the characters attributed in those movements in the opening. But the entire production of the opening involved traditional work of the art department, animators, composers, and other artists. On Wednesday, Polygon published statements from Secret Invasion director and executive producer Ali Sharm, stating that the show's title sequence was created using AI. He was quoted as saying he didn't, quote, really understand, end quote, how it worked. But he noted, we would talk to them about ideas and themes, about words, and then the computer would go off and do something. And then we would change a little bit of it by using words, and it would change. The potential use of AI in Hollywood has been a high-profile and very controversial subject. So word quickly spread about its use on Secret Invasion, which stars Samuel L. Jackson as he reprises his role as Nick Fury. Here is the complete statement from Method, whose recent work on Top Gun Maverick's visual effects earned them an Oscar nomination. By the way, Top Gun Maverick, as everybody knows, grossed over $1.5 billion. So I went to a Q&A with Joseph Kosinski, the director. He said the only AI the only CGI that was used was for the skins of the plane. So, for example, when they're up in the air, that's a completely different thing because guess what? They don't make an F-14 Tomcat anymore. They just don't. They decommissioned those years ago. So here's the statement. Working on Secret Invasion, a captivating show exploring the infiltration of aliens into human society, provided an exceptional opportunity to delve into the intriguing realm of AI, specifically for creating unique characters, attributes, and movements. Using a custom AI tool for this particular element perfectly aligned with the project's overall theme and desired aesthetic. The production process was highly collaborative and innovative, with a dedicated focus on the specific application of the AI toolset. It involves a tremendous effort by talented art directions, animators, proficient in both 2D and 3D, artists, and developers who employed conventional techniques to craft all the other aspects of the project. However, it is crucial to emphasize that while the AI component provided optimal results, AI is just one tool among the array of tool sets our artists use. No artist jobs were replaced by incorporating these new tools. Instead, they complemented and assisted our creative teams. Method Studios' team of designers skillfully leveraged the power of both existing and custom AI tools to apply the otherworldly alien look. The entire process is guided by the expert art direction encompassed the initial storyboard phase, illustration, AI generation, 2D and 3D, and culminated in the final composition stage. Okay, let's talk about this because it needs to be. First of all, I understand the dilemma. Okay, so actually, let's that comes in. He says, the AI brought out the worst in people on Twitter, Reddit, everywhere. For every person that said they weren't going to watch the series, 5 or more people will. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right about that. You're absolutely right. So, a couple things. Number one, anybody who has seen this show and seen the opening, as soon as I saw it, I said, this is perfect. This was perfect for it. And it talked about it in the statement, the aesthetic for it. Okay? The shape-shifting aesthetic. It was perfect. I'm not, look, and the other key phrase that was used in there is tool. Okay? You have imagine building something. Okay, whatever it is. Let's say you're building a chair. Okay. Now, what you're going to do is use a bandsaw, you're going to use a measuring stick, you're going to use nails, or you're going to use screws, and everything else, a screwdriver, a hammer. Okay. So when you build that chair, what you have is by the time that chair is done, you used all these things. That's exactly what they did with AI here. Okay. They didn't just they put something into whatever it was, it spit something out, okay, and then they tweaked it, inputted it again, they spit something else out, okay, tweaked it again, did it again, and that's probably how you got what you wanted, okay? The thing is, if this had just been your regular Marvel opening, and it was to a certain extent, it wouldn't have worked. This isn't like a cinematic type of thing. This is outer space. This is sci-fi. Okay? It's got the combination of sci-fi, spies, and everything else. And I think that when you see it, you'll understand, for all those people that haven't, you'll understand why it was used. I don't have a problem with it. And as I said, it didn't cost any artists their jobs, and that's the important thing. If they want to use it as a tool to help, that's fine. But when you start to do it and manipulate it and leave somebody else out and have them cost their jobs, that's when it becomes problematic. I believe the opening show is going to change week to week. It will adapt to the show. Just my guess. Yeah, possibly. I mean that is definitely a thing. It will be interesting to see what happens next week. Okay, it definitely will. So now that we have, and by the way, I'm in favor of the AI. Okay, as long as A is used as a tool, and B does not take away any jobs. Okay, if that's what they're able to get out of it, then perfect. And by the way, I don't think, honestly, to be truthful and fair, I don't think you could have had. I mean, they're the best of the best in it method. I don't think they could have done that without it. Okay, just something else to keep in mind. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about the show itself. Because the show itself, let's dive into this, but let's dive into this first by talking about the cast. Because this is a huge cast. Okay. This is a huge cast. And so these are all notable names. Let's go right down the list. So from left to right, you've got Ben Mendelsohn, okay? Stars in the most famous recent thing I can think of, and it was a couple years ago, of course, was Rogue One. Really, really good. He's a great actor. Of course, to his right, you have Samuel L. Jackson, the stud of studs, right? He is the kingpin when it comes to everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, okay? I mean, it goes back to 2008 with, that first cut scene with, Tony Stark. Hi, I'm Nick Fury. So, I mean, he has been the staple. To his right, Amelia Clark. Amelia Clark. Amelia Clark, of course, she was known for several years on Game of Thrones. And just was a facet of that show and was just unbelievable. Okay. So to her right, you have Olivia Colman, 2-time Academy Award winner Olivia Colman. That shows you something, right? The fact that they're able to go get a 2-time Academy Award winner and have her be in that was fantastic. So next, of course, the incomparable Don Cheadle, Rhodey. And as we've seen, we will see in this particular show, he's what looks like, at least in this first episode, is advisor to the president. So he's now in Washington. He's hung up the war machine type of thing. So to his right, Colby Smulders. Absolute staple. I mean, Nick Fury's first in command. I mean, she goes all the way back to the Avengers, and she's been on a number of different, in a number of different movies and, everything else. And then finally, all the way over to the right, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong about that, that's Martin Freeman. So Martin Freeman, of course, Black Panther he was prominent, but he's, really, really good. He's a great actor. Of course, he was in those Lord of the Rings movies all those years ago too, but he's really had that little staple in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this cast is stacked. Okay? This cast is stacked. And I think that when you're able to get A-listers like this, fantastic. Now, we didn't see, there was one person there that was not pictured, okay? And that's this gentleman. This gentleman here plays a prominent role, okay? Kingsley Ben-Adir, okay? And he is in the first episode, and he's like that Skrull leader, okay? And so he is a major facet in this. That being said, let me talk about a couple of things too. First and foremost, I loved the callbacks. So anybody who's not familiar with a callback is you watch a movie and then they talk about something else in another movie. Okay, so for example, even Maria talked about it, basically talking about the blip, and then somebody else had made the reference of Captain Marvel. So because that's where this whole thing came from. Okay, it was a Captain Marvel, and I have a feeling there will be some connection down the road in the Marvels in some way, shape, or form. So he played the Skrull leader. Now, Skrulls, they're bad people. Let's just put it like this. But the cool thing about them is that they can take any form. They're shapeshifters, right? So all they got to do is touch you, and then they'll be able to take your form and whatever else. Loved it. I mean, it's one of those things where so when it opens, like that was the cool thing. When it opens, we see Martin Freeman's character talking to this guy who is a little bit crazed, but he eventually had to kill him. But it was one of those things where, I mean, I thought the guy was a Skrull to begin with. So, but it went, so it was self-defense and everything else. So a couple of things. Great backstory. The great backstory given by the agent or agents. So talking about the history and because let's face it, one thing that Marvel has done, not a lot of people saw Captain Marvel, but they've totally forgotten about this. So it's like we need a little refresher course to keep up to date about this. So that was a great little thing in itself. The chase. So So during that chase there, a little further in, so when one of them is running away from the other one, and he runs into a building, and you just see the lights turn on sequentially. I thought that was really, really cool. Okay. Um, and that was cool in itself. We're treated with a Skrull early on. So that scene in the alley where Maria comes in, and so you see that one of the Skrulls is dead because he catches him. Okay. And he shoots him. And then it was a beautiful job of lighting because, I won't say the oldest trick in the book, but one of the tricks is you can really, and it's been done a couple times, whether it's like Goodfellas or here or a couple other places, is use the headlights, right? You use the headlights to actually light it up, okay, in the dark. And then I love that over the top shot there, and that was used a couple times. That that establishing shot, was used a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, and it was done effectively. It wasn't overused at all. As I said, going back to the opening, I could see why the AI was used. And by the way, we jumped right into this. This is not like, okay, we get a little 2 minutes and then, no, we get a good 4 or 5 minutes to establish everything. Okay, we establish Mark Freeman's character. We establish with this doctor at the moment. We see Colby Smothers' character. So we're not just a couple minutes. We get a good 4 or 5 minutes, and then you get the opening because they want you to be immersed in it. Really enjoyed that. Amelia Clark. So let me go back to a couple of the performances real quick. Nick Fury, Amelia Clark. I thought she was really good. I mean, so she is the villain here, okay, or one of the villains, and I thought she was really good. I thought because we hadn't seen this kind of villain or this kind of devious type of person, and there obviously is some relationship between Martin Freeman's character and her because they, he was talking about her mother, okay. So it looks like that he might have been there when she passed. And so she's having to deal with this. It looks kind of like she's not wanting to do this, but she's having to do it. That's going to be an interesting little thing as we move on. So let's move on. So, I mean, one of the first shots of the show is after that as we see Fury. I loved when we're talking about aliens. Big spaceship comes, okay, beams down, and you see a white light, and then these doors open, and it looks just like the alien. And so, actually, Dad says Amelia Clark. I think she's playing Talos' daughter. Okay, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I could see that. So what ends up happening, I mean, you see the bright light and then, and then you see the doors open and you see the little black figure looking just like an alien. And Fury steps up. And I'm like, okay. So, of course, he's being returned to Earth so he can fight these Skrulls. And as you can see here in this picture, he's a little rough around the edges. Right? He's got the beard. He's got the grayish beard. He's, he just looks rough around the edges. So he gets the call, finally he meets up with Colby Smothers' character. And so it's Maria Hill. I keep forgetting her name for some reason. But he meets up with Maria, and then, Ben Mendelsohn's character, and they have to stop this plot. And so a couple of the other things. Number one, MacGuffin. So basically they have to stop these dirty bobs. Okay. And so, and I may have said this before. So anything So, anyways, there's something called a MacGuffin in film. Okay, a MacGuffin is that thing that you don't see, okay, or something being chased after, okay. Whether, and I always use the example, whether it's the Ark in Raiders of the Lost Ark, whether it's the Infinity Stones in Infinity War, whether it's, name anything you can, okay, that scene that that both parties are going after. So in this case, it's the dirty bombs. So it's the dirty bombs that Amelia Clark has, her character. And so, by the way, I'm going to say this outright. Since this is the first episode, I may not use their. I'm terrible with pronunciations, so I may not use their characters' names, but you'll know who I'm talking about. But that was the MacGuffin in this episode. It was those dirty bombs. I'm glad this show, in the first episode, just jumped into the action. Very little exposition. This is the first MCU show that makes me want into the next episode. Yeah. So, okay, to your point, Dad. So I have something, when I watch TV, okay, there's something in every single show out there. And I call it the oh shit moment. Okay. It's that moment in the last 5 to 7 minutes that makes you go, oh shit. A perfect example of that is Dexter. Anybody who knows of the show knows what I'm talking about. Dexter was a show that first season, because people forget about this. Dexter, the very first season was on CBS. And then because CBS owned Showtime, they wanted to go to a different route. So that's why they it was definitely more adult material in the second season. And so, I mean, a lot of vulgarity, not that bloody, but there was a little blood. Nonetheless, every single episode, okay, you had that oh shit moment. You go, whoa. And kind of like it was a hook for the next episode. And that's what they did with this. So definitely. So getting back to that though, the dirty bombs were the MacGuffin. And that was the thing that they had, both parties had, or were trying to fight after. And you had a lot of, so basically, Fury goes for a walk. He gets kidnapped by Olivia Colman's character. This was a lot of introductions in the first episode, but they had to be done. So, yeah, so they had to be done. And basically, once we start to get further into this, it's going to be more relevant. Now, I think you're right about the action. So from what I've read, okay, and what I've, seen on Twitter and everything else, this is going to be a mix of like a spy thriller. It's going to be a spy thriller. This is going to have some Captain America Winter Soldier vibes. That's what it's going to be. So, so the dirty bombs were the thing that they were after. So then Amelia Clark actually helps one of these Skrulls come in, okay? And at that point, okay, we're kind of jumping back and forth. And then so Amelia Clark's character takes these bombs. So she basically talks to Ben Mendelsohn's character and like, look, here's where the bombs are going to be. Okay, there's going to be 3 of them. Okay. At that point, they, can figure out what they're going to do. And then so right around the end of the episode, okay. And by the way, guys, I might be skipping around, okay. But so they know exactly what they're going to do. So then they go to the courtyard, okay. And this is where the little spy things start to come into play, okay. So one of the cool things about this was the glasses. Okay. So, just like, I'm going to go back and like Mission Impossible, the original ones with the glasses, And there's the Kingsman movie. A couple of other movies have done this, and so these can basically identify not only who the subject is, but any radiation. So she picks up, okay, Amelia Clark's character, and then she drops the bags off. Then we have two people that pick them up, and they split up. So there's three people. You have Ben Mendelsohn's character, Fury, and Maria. And so Fury's overhead watching everything. Ben Mendelsohn's character and Maria go after those two people. Now, there is X's marked on the bags. And at that point, because those are the bombs, okay? So they're going after them. So they finally get to each one, and I love the music in this scene. This runs on for about 5 or 7 minutes, but you can tell the music was really appropriate for the scene. It was racing. It got your heart pumping. Like, are they going to get there in time, or, what's going to happen? And so they both get to the people, but the bags are empty. And so kind of like a little switch repeat. So for anybody who remembers the beginning of Civil War, okay, there was that scene where there were a couple of different bad guys, and the Avengers were going after them. And so Falcon was going after one person, and Scarlet Witch was going after another one, and Cap was going after somebody else. And the other two, they were decoys, and that's what this was. They were decoys. So as we see, so Fury's now in the courtyard too, looking around, and sees him. Okay, now he is the Skrull leader, like I said. So what ends up happening, and this was a really cool scene, and how they were able to do the shape shifting. Okay, so he sees the guy, and then he sees him walk behind a cotton candy thing, and he changes into a girl. Now, here's the thing: that girl he also saw when he got just before he got kidnapped, okay, by the agents. Okay, he saw her. So he was a little baffled by that, befuddled. So he walks behind something else, and he changes into this very attractive woman. Okay, and this just goes to show you what he can do, right? And he's trying to track her. And then at that point, what ends up happening is the last time he changes back, he changes back into this form. He knows he's a Skrull, okay? And he's trying to get there. So in one of the transformations, he actually transforms into him, okay? Which I thought was really cool. So he doesn't want to shoot himself, okay? So then we see him change back into this form here, his human form. And that's when, the one thing that they didn't want to happen happens. And it's, in all essence, it's like the part of a movie. There's a plot point called the point of no return. And he just looks at Fury, and he takes the thing out, and he shoots, and the bomb goes off. Not one bomb, not two bombs, but 3 bombs go off. And of course, it's chaos. So when he changes into Fury, okay, when that Skrull changes into Fury, Maria's right there. And, he's like, oh, Nick, boom. She shoots, the Skrull shoots him. So now she's down, okay? And, of course, he gets away, and now she's laying there. And as the episode closes, to your point, Dad, about jumping into the action, wanting more, this is the hook for next week, okay? Maria is gone. Maria Hill is gone. So now it's one of those things where, okay, how do we deal with this? So we have Skrulls in the loose. We don't have any leads. Okay. We now have to deal with the death of an agent. Okay. And now we're trying to find, Amelia Clark's character. So it's one of those things where, how is this all going to play out? And we established, and you're probably right about that, there was a relationship between Ben Mendelsohn and Amelia Clark. What's that relationship? So there's a lot of, so that's what the opening episode of any show is supposed to do. Okay. It's supposed to do a couple things. Number one, it's supposed to establish the characters. Okay. Number two, it's supposed to establish the storyline. Okay. And the character arcs. And number three, where is it going to go? All those things were established. So this is going to get better and better and better as the weeks go along. I really enjoyed it. It had that right mix of spy thriller and Skrull, and even the callbacks. It was that perfect mix. It was not it wasn't too dependent on one thing. Do you remember the little girl Skrull at the end of Captain Marvel? Okay. It's been a while since I've seen Captain Marvel, but okay. I think I remember. Yeah. At the very end. Okay. Yeah, it's been a while, but okay. Good to know. Thank you. And so that's the other thing it makes you do, right? Is what he was talking about. It makes you go back. That's the genius about it, right? That's the genius about it. So, because they actually bring up Captain Marvel by name, okay? They will, I mark my words, they will, I wouldn't be shocked, and we won't know, but I wouldn't be shocked if Disney Plus, you see a surge in Captain Marvel in Disney Plus, because it's fascinating. Right after the episode was over, they always give suggestions. Right after the episode was over, Captain Marvel came up for a suggestion. So, but that's what it's going to do. It's going to make you go back and watch a couple of these other movies to refresh yourself, to go, oh, really? Because people forget about that. I did. So this looks really good. This looks really good. And I think, 6 episodes, it seems too short. But remember, this is exactly what they did with WandaVision. When WandaVision came out, it wasn't that popular. They knew it was coming out. And this week-by-week model, and this is where Netflix and everything else differ, when it's a week-by-week model, okay, the anticipation grows, the speculation grows, the questions grow. What's going to happen there? What's going to happen with that character? And it builds, and it builds, and it builds, and it builds. And next thing you know, you're at episode 5, and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for the finale. People are going to be losing their minds for the finale. And that's the thing, that when you have a show or a streaming service like a Netflix, okay, that drops everything at once, it's one of those things where you binge the whole, it's like Cobra Kai. You binge the whole thing and it's over. And you've got to wait 6 weeks or 6 months, sometimes a year. And you're like, okay, it's good for the time, but this is going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And I would be shocked. And I didn't, you know what? I didn't look. I don't know if there was an Easter egg there at the end of the episode. I'd have to go back and look. But if there was an Easter egg, okay, fine. But I probably not. There will probably be an Easter egg after the last episode of this. to set up the Marvels. I wouldn't be shocked. I bet a lot of those oh shit moments in this series, that in this series will be when they reveal Skrull. Yeah, that's what they want. They know they have that formula of knowing exactly how to do it and when to do it too. That's the key thing. It's not that they do it; it's when do they do it. And there's a formula to it, guys, because they want to keep you hooked in on the edge of your seat, and then go. So when they start that next episode, they give you a little bit of previously on to give you a little bit of recourse, but then they jump right in, and that was something I appreciated. Really appreciated the little back half. The agents talked about the Skrulls because it's been years since I've seen Captain Marvel. But I mean, I knew of them. This looks really good. It looks really good. It's it's a shame. And here's the other thing too. Keep this in mind. They actually moved back, which I think is going to be a good thing in the grand scheme of things. They actually moved back the Marvels. The Marvels was supposed to come out in July, the middle of July. So I think them actually moving it back and doing that, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. I can't wait. So I think this overall, okay, I think this was a very good starting episode. It did everything you wanted to do. It reestablished characters, okay? It gave you new characters, and we see what's going to end up happening. And don't forget, like I said, I mean, that we're going to get more with Rhodey in this, I think, than people really realize, okay? And, I love Don Cheadle in itself, but yeah, I think Amelia Clark's going to be great. I think Don Cheadle's going to be great. Olivia Colman's going to be great. And this is all, people forget, this is all stemming out of, 10 years. It's going to be 10 years next year, guys, that two of the biggest Marvel films came out. Okay. This series will set up Armor Wars. Okay. I'll have to get updated on that. And I've heard of it. I'm not that depth about it. But it's going to be 10 years, guys, next year, since two of the biggest films. I mean, I really think one of them saved the MCU, and that's Captain America: Winter Soldier, hands down, twice on Sunday. Because if you look what ended up happening, I mean, the Russos, what they did with that, so you had that political thriller, okay? It was a spy thriller, and then you had the action. That's what this is shaping up to be, okay? Maybe not the political aspect of it, but definitely the spy aspect of it. I mean, we've seen it now with like the glasses. I'm sure we're going to get more gadgets as the weeks move along. Fury was great. I mean, Samuel Jackson was great. This is a stacked cast. I can't wait for the second episode, because it's now what a good opening episode should do is make you want more. Right? A good opening episode should make you want more. And that's what this is going to do. You want to get into next week. Now, I personally am not going to watch any of the teases or the trailer for the next episode. I want to go in completely blind. I mean, I knew what the show was about, okay? But I'm not going to be like, oh my God, I got to watch everything. I want to go in completely blind. So, yeah. This looks really good. And I think this is the perfect break we need too, right? Because we just had Guardians come out in May. This is coming out now. Now we're going to get a little bit of a lull till November. Okay. And I think this is going to keep people, their appetite just full enough that they can wait 3, 4, 5 months, okay, and then have the Marvels come out. And that's why I think the Marvels is going to be very successful. Now, is it going to make $1 billion? That's yet to be seen, okay? I wouldn't be shocked, too, if you see some sort of reference to Miss Marvel in this. Because that, I mean, you've seen Captain Marvel, or you've heard a reference to Captain Marvel. You've heard the blip talked about twice. I wouldn't be shocked to see or hear about a Captain Marvel reference. It only makes sense because you have the Marvels in November. So, I sent you okay, cool. I will definitely check that out. But yeah, I can't wait for the second episode. I think I'm in. I can't wait. And this is going to be a good series, guys. So stay tuned for all that. And the thing is, too, last thing I'll say is this. I am not, truth be told, I'm not the biggest comic book fan in the world. I mean, I know Marvel because of the movies and everything else, but I like good stories. And this is a good story. And I think this is going to be very good moving forward. So it's also fascinating, too. So you take a look at this picture, right? Okay. You can tell from movie posters and pictures. This was from Marvel Studios, by the way, this picture. Okay. You can tell who's like the most important and who's the least important, right? So Maria Hill, all the way over there on the right, we assume she's dead. She is dead. She's gone. No more. Okay. Martin Freeman's character is pretty important, right? So we have Emilia Clarke's character, who really is more of a vessel than anything else. Okay. The Skrull, okay, is very important. Okay. And then, of course, in the middle, in the front, is Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson. He is the most important aspect of this show because it's centered around him. So that's something to always keep in mind, guys. Whenever you're watching whenever you see a movie poster or watching a movie, look at the positioning of the people. I mean, take the Infinity War poster, right? Thanos is the biggest person right in the middle, and all of the other Avengers are on both sides. So, just something to keep in mind for future reference. But yeah, guys, I'm looking forward to this so much. I can't wait for second episode next week. So that's going to do it for this episode. Okay. But every single Thursday, we're going to be doing another episode of Secret Invasion. And this is going to go on for the next 5 weeks. And, yeah, I'm in on this, and I'm looking forward to this very, very much. So, quick programming note. Tomorrow, I know I said I wasn't going to do a show today. Tomorrow, we're going to have, you guys are going to be getting a new Mission Impossible movie. So, tomorrow is going to be Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. And that is the 4th in the series. I really enjoyed it. This is when things really start to come off the chains, right? I mean, we always think of Mission Impossible, but it's the last 3 films that really make your head spin and go, oh my God, he did what? So the last three stunts, major stunts that he did, Ghost Protocol, and by the way, guys, go back and watch the YouTube stuff. It's fascinating. But the last 3 stunts he did, he was hanging off the side of the world's tallest building. They actually had to manipulate and get building codes and everything else and change the structure of the building to accompany this. Okay. That's Ghost Protocol. And by the way, he's hanging off the side of an airplane. If that wasn't good enough, right? He's hanging off the side of an airplane. Like, okay. Then you had Rogue Nation. And Rogue Nation is one of those things where just another, and that was one thing that they did very well about it. It was linear. A couple of franchises have tried to do it. They actually did it well. It was only two things. Rogue Nation was very good too, and we got the introduction of a couple of new characters. But Fallout, he's hanging off of a helicopter, and he's literally flying a helicopter. And he said it took about a year. I mean, this is not me knowing this. You can go back and watch it, but yeah. So, anyways, Ghost Protocol this week, Rogue Nation next week, and Fallout the week after. So, the show was good 8 to 10. Hey, Meadow, how are you? 8 to 10 what? I'm a little lost there. So, but yeah, I mean, so it's one of those things where, it's a fantastic thing. And Mission Impossible is one of those things that is just unbelievable. And I was saying earlier today, you got to wonder where, if we didn't have, you mean the movie? I blanked there for a minute. Sorry there. He says it was 8 out of 10. Yeah, I agree. And I cannot wait for Dead Reckoning. This is nobody does stuff like Tom Cruise. And like I said earlier today, when this last one comes out next year, they're gonna miss it. They're gonna miss all these crazy things. And that's the other thing too. It's how can you top yourself, right? Like I'm sure they're planning something so ridiculous for that. But yeah. So yeah, Fallout or Ghost Protocols tomorrow. So Secret Invasion Thursdays. We'll have Mission Impossible Fridays, and then because there is not a big film coming out, okay, Ask Me Anything is going to be Saturday this week, and then break on Sunday, and then we'll be back on it on Monday. So yeah, I mean and I'm going to try and get a schedule down for myself to get all this stuff done. I'm also putting up the show from today's show. So I've already got a couple stories up. I have 2 more to do, and that will be that. So anyways, guys, so that's going to do it for today. So we got Mission Impossible tomorrow. Come back here next week for Secret Invasion Spoilercast episode 2. And then, as I said, tomorrow's Ghost Protocol, and then Saturday's Ask Me Anything. So do the 3 things you need to do, guys. Be safe, be careful, and have a great rest of the day. I am your David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye-bye, guys.